Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Cool Country Podcast where we discuss everything WVU sports. I'm your host, Ian McIntyre, and joining me as always, I got Tyler and Matt with me. Gentlemen, we did it. How are we feeling?
I'm happy to be here. How are you guys?
I'm psyched. I know Tyler's happy. He's probably the happiest out of all of us, but as Mountaineer fans, we all got to enjoy this equally. So, as we all know by now, WVU pulls off the upset, quote unquote, in the Backyard Brawl. We win 31-24 in a classic overtime thriller. And it looks like we found our RB1, and we'll get more into that later. Before we start getting into details, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube and follow all our socials. And do your due diligence with our channel. So, all right, gentlemen, let's jump into it. So, I know at one point in the game, we were down 24-14 after holding that big lead. And Tyler, you asked me.
Scary.
Yeah, you asked me when I was in the stadium, what was I thinking? Was I going to leave? Because, after that Ohio game, things were looking bleak for all of us, and I told myself if we went down early, I would not want to stay. And we didn't go down early per se. It was, you said, like 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, somewhere around there.
Yeah, late third quarter, they finally took the lead after the second interception by Scotty. Then about midway through the fourth, they took a 10-point lead, and that was when Nico finally comes in and saves the day.
Yeah, crazy. Matt, I want to ask you about that because, we were both at the game. How did it feel on TV watching it? Because feeling emotions as a WVU fan is way different being there in person compared to through a TV. So how was it for you watching from abroad?
Well, so you're absolutely right. This was my first home game in over 3 years that I haven't been able to attend. So that was hard on me, but I watched the whole game. Actually, I was on a call with our friend Matt Loams, who was on a couple recordings ago with us. We watched the whole game together. And when we were down 10, I said, listen, man, you watched the game last year in Pittsburgh. I was there with you guys. And I said, if Neil Brown can throw away a win, Pat Narduzzi can throw away a win. And just like that, I mean, I remember looking at the clock. There were 4 minutes and 8 seconds. And I said, the Mountaineers can do it. And just like that, we turned it around. I called my grandpa. I grew up going to games with him. It was really just a special moment. I was on the phone with him for the last 2 minutes of regulation, all of overtime. I mean, I was jumping up and down screaming. It was awesome. There's no other word for it.
It was quite ironic how the game ended last year and then in very similar fashion ended this year. Obviously, last year Pitt scores twice and there is no overtime needed. This year you have a field goal and then a touchdown, and so you do still end up going to overtime. But it was ironic that down 10 late in the fourth, you need a comeback miracle, and it happens. You mentioned how, like the feeling around the game when you're down that, you're going to struggle to come back. You're asking for basically a miracle when you're down 10 late in the fourth. Everything's got to go right, basically. Just like the feeling in that moment, because the past 6 years with Neil, whether you were ahead or behind, it almost felt like no matter the situation, if you were that far behind, it didn't feel like Neil had a chance. And even when you had a lead, it almost felt like you were guaranteed to blow it. I'll use last year's Pitt game as an example. This year, although I was concerned in the moment of going down 10, when Holstein finds, I believe it was Poppy Williams in the back of the end zone to go up 10, it was a head scratcher, and you're just like, you had control of the game. You make a quarterback change, and now you're out of control of the game. And it was like, what the heck are we doing? But it never felt like we were out of it. The defense played lights out. The offense, I thought, was slightly better. Still got a lot of work to do, but you never felt like you were out of it. The fans, I don't think the fans, at least for the most part, never filed out. Like, as soon as they scored the touchdown to go up 10, I think the fans could have started to leave. They didn't. And so the fans stayed strong, and just the noise in the stadium in the fourth quarter and going into overtime, especially that Eddie Vesterinen sack, the Grayson Barnes touchdown to send it to overtime, and the Eddie Vesterinen sack in overtime were some of the loudest crowd pops I've heard in that stadium, and any stadium for that matter. I mean, so just the atmosphere, the game. I'm putting it in number one football games that I've attended, and number two sporting events. And the only thing that tops it is last year's basketball team upsetting number two Iowa State. And so it's up there. It was a hell of a game to be at. I'm proud of the Mountaineers. Can't say nothing better than that. And I owe them an apology because I was doubting all week last week, doubting before the game. I even picked Pitt to win. I'm sorry. I'm glad I was wrong.
Man, yeah.
Yes, we are. We are glad you were wrong.
The way I saw it being there, you're down 10 with only 8 minutes left on the clock, and after the game that we went through last week, it's one of the lowest moments that I can remember experiencing with this Mountaineer team and any Mountaineer team in any sport, to be honest. You're just like, man, where do we go from here? Because we were questioning in our last episode, right? Where can we go from here? What can we get right with what all we have going wrong? And I feel like when you're in that situation, you have a choice, right, to either fight or give up. And the players have to make that same choice. And when things are looking that bleak, they have a choice to either keep trying or don't. And I think collectively they made the correct choice to keep trying. And regardless of the outcome, that's what you need. And we would not have gotten that experience, I think we can all say, if we had Neil Brown as our coach.
I was going to say,
so
I think that's part of the culture shift. If you remember last year, even after the Penn State, but more so after the Pitt game, it just felt like, okay, you lost a game. Where do you go from here? And it just felt like the momentum was completely gone. None of the players were playing to win. It just felt like there was no fight left in the team. Again, partially after Penn State, and then even more so after the brawl last year. This year, you go and lose to a MAC team on the road, and you could have rolled over and just said, screw it, season's over, which is what I basically did here or said on the podcast. I was like, this is going to be a long season. We're in for a rough year, but no. I mean, you want to talk about just fighting, showing up and fighting. And it was present throughout the whole game, but even more so when you're down late in the fourth and you have to come back. I mean, not a single one of those players gave up. Not a single one. And I want to especially highlight the defense. The defense kept the team in that game. And I think the key shift in that game, not necessarily I want to say the key point. For West Virginia, the low spot was Scotty Fox throwing 2 interceptions. What kept West Virginia in that game is with those 2 interceptions, they were both given to Pitt in field goal range around the 30-yard line, and they only came away with 6 points out of those 2 interceptions. The defense held Pitt to 6 points, 2 field goals after giving the ball in field goal range, basically. They had incredible field position. And so I think that was the key point in the game. The offense realized, okay, we can't get the ball moving. Scotty's thrown 2 interceptions, but the defense is still going out there and competing on every snap to win the game.
Yeah, 100%. When we went to overtime and you have that coin flip to decide who goes first, I so wanted to go second because you want to see your defense go ahead and take care of business, which I knew they would.
Well, see, I wanted them first. I'll let you explain why, but I did want them first.
Okay. Well, I wanted the offense to go on after Pitt because that would have allowed us to get our heads together a little better. Now, I think we still had the drive that we needed to have. Obviously, it worked out. So regardless of the coin toss, it wouldn't have mattered. But I think it would have gave our offense a little more confidence if we went second. But I knew regardless, our defense was going to do what they needed to do. And they absolutely showed that. Like on the last play of the game, when it 100% counts and it matters for you, Holstein throws the ball out of bounds. I mean, I know he technically overshot a receiver, but like he threw that nowhere near his receiver, and the fact that defense made him do that on the most important play of the game shows you how good they are.
Yeah, I wanted the offense to go first simply because the offense had struggled on the day, despite scoring 31 points. I think the 31 points is a little deceiving. The offense had struggled, and so you need every ounce of momentum you can have. And you go into overtime scoring 10 unanswered. I think you needed that momentum, and I think you saw it. I mean, it carried into the first drive. They scored with pretty much ease. They used that heavy set package again in overtime to score, which had 9 offensive linemen on the field, and then Nico and Edwards. So I think you needed the momentum, and then you trust your defense to end the game, rather than you trust your defense to get a stop, and if they don't stop, do you really trust your offense to go out and match if Pitt would have scored? So I like the fact that we ended up with the ball first.
I think that Mountaineer fans are starting to call that 9 lineman set. They're starting to name it after the tush push. They're starting to call it the Mountain Mash, which I think is
like
pretty
that.
funny.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
But it worked, dude. It worked when we needed it to. So no qualms about who went first or went second. But, man, I was so nervous in my seat watching that game. And the looks of relief from people in the crowd, especially around me, who were just so excited to escape that game with a win when we needed it the most. To put it lightly, a game I'll remember for the rest of my life.
A crucial game, and for a couple reasons. One, you finally can put some demons to bed, some demons to rest, and Rich Rod has finally gotten his revenge for the dreadful night in 2007. Okay, it'll never be fully gone, but this is a start in the right direction. Rich Rod finally gets his win over Pitt after leaving West Virginia. The next reason is because after a loss to a MAC team, the fan base was in a low spot. And I said this to you before the show, that we shouldn't get the good is never as good as it seems, and the bad is never as bad as it seems. And so I think last week I was, a little emotional after a MAC loss. And you even said before in the episode that your preseason expectations were a little too high simply because you're a Mountaineer fan. And I said to you before we started recording that I think after a loss, my expectations get a little too low. I was very rough on the team last week, and I still think for valid reason. They played very poorly against Ohio, but that same Ohio team just went and took Ohio State to 3 quarters competitively. Okay,
this is a good Ohio team we're talking about.
It's a good Ohio team, and I don't think I realized how good that the Ohio team was after the game. Still not a good loss, but I think you make up for it a little bit with the Brawl loss, because even if you lose out, I don't think you will at this point. You have bragging rights over the Brawl for the next 4 years until they come in 2029. Pitt has no place in Morgantown. So.
Yeah.
That's exactly
it's a tough one. It's a tough one for young Patrick to sit on for 4 years, man.
The seat's getting warmer.
I think so. I mean, they didn't play anybody before us.
Slowly but surely, the seat is getting warmer because they have not beaten a Power 4 opponent in 9-10 games.
I think they're 0-7 against Power 4 teams now after us.
It was in late October was their last Power 4 win.
Yeah,
last year. Yeah,
it's crazy. And also, I think it's hilarious how we're sitting here as Mountaineer fans wishing that Ohio had just beaten Rutgers. If they could have beat Rutgers, man.
I mean, I don't want to say that's a quality loss, but the more that Ohio plays, the better the loss seems, if you know what I mean. And right. I think the fact that you just saw West Virginia take a solid Pitt team, despite being a little banged up, to overtime and end up winning it, I think you realize how much better the Ohio team is now. And I don't. Again, I was a little emotional about after post loss, and I'm probably a little too high on the team after a win. I'll try to keep the expectations tempered.
It's going to be a seesaw the whole season, I think.
Yeah, it's ups and downs, but I think I wasn't giving Ohio the proper amount of respect that they deserved. So I'm sorry to the Bobcat fans, and I was a little too low on the Mountaineers, so I'm sorry to the Mountaineers.
All right, let's go ahead and move into a little bit of the particulars from this game, since we've sort of covered our overall feelings, and I think we should go ahead and start with the defense. The defense was, again, so solid. Zach Alley's contract has been worth every single penny so far this year.
Probably not enough. I mean, He's getting paid seven figures and has full control of the defense, and it's probably still not enough. Ridiculous what he's been able to do as far as a culture shift on the defensive side of the ball. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're what, top 15 across the board
Well,
defensively?
I wrote them down. This is something we all saw earlier today. To match, where did I put them? Yeah. Last year's, sort of defensive numbers. We are 3 games into the season, and we only need one more interception, one more forced fumble, and 8 more sacks to match last year's total. And we just got, 6 sacks in this game, and the defensive line still doesn't have Jamori Robinson. So I expect you to reach that 8 sacks mark within 2, maybe 3 games. And you'll definitely get another interception and forced fumble within the next couple games. So in 4 or 5 games, you are going to match the defensive, takeaways or big plays that you had last year in 13 games.
It's crazy.
Wild.
It's crazy. I mean,
no, it is crazy, but the defense was our breaking point last year. I mean, we spent the whole season saying, why can't we stop anybody from doing anything?
It was. And you go from being the worst, by far the worst secondary in the P4, and you have one of the worst defenses overall. And right now you're sitting at 33rd in total points allowed. You're allowing 14.7 points per game. That's 33rd. You're allowing 93 rushing yards per game, which is 29th. So you're top 30 there. Your passing defense needs to get a little better. You're 68th in all of FBS, allowing 206 passing yards per game, which is not terrible, but again, it's not great either. It's far better than what you were last year. And then total yards per game, you're allowing around 300, which is 47th. So right now you're at a top 50 defense compared to last year. You were near the bottom in all of FCS or FBS, not just Power 4.
And that's also with, in my opinion, very, very high quality quarterbacks that we're playing on our schedule. Even if you take away Robert Morris, you look at Navarro, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks we face all year. And then you heard preseason that the Big 12 is arguably the best quarterback league in the P4. So you're looking at.
You've got another solid quarterback coming up. You've got Jalen Daniels on the road.
Yeah,
you've got to find a way. But thus far, what Zach Alley has shown me is to have confidence in Zach Alley because he's done it. Even Ohio, they only scored 17 points.
Yeah, held them scoreless in the second half.
Yep.
Scoreless in the second half. We only allowed 46 rushing yards yesterday, and I know that was with Pitt's running back going down. But, you only allow 46 rushing yards against any team. You're doing your job, man.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. The other ones I have down, I read the points per game, yards per game, but right now for sacks, you're tied for second with 12. Ironically, you're tied with Pitt at second in the FBS. Tackles for loss, you're 27th with 22, and takeaways, you are 14th with 6. So you're just under 20th or top 20 in 3 of the biggest defensive categories. And so just the fact that in 1 year with 11 new players on that side of the ball, basically, Zach Alley has been able to turn the defense from what it was last year into this year. And that doesn't even include what you were going to mention about the secondary and specifically Michael Coates about his PFF grades. Michael Coates has only been targeted twice on the year and allowed 1 catch for 2 yards through 3 games.
And that's exactly what you want as a corner. It's not the stats that you care about. It's about the fact that no one dare throw the ball to you. One dare put the ball over there.
You're so straps that you have had 3 games played and only 2 targets thrown your way.
Yeah, and 2 yards. I
feel like he's been an unsung hero because he doesn't have an interception. He only has 1 pass block or pass breakup. And he's close to the top in tackles, but he's not close to the top, but he's having a decent tackling year so far. But you haven't heard his name. It's because they don't throw the ball his way. He's got an 80 PFF grade, which, what did you say? It was the highest graded corner since 2020.
No, I was going to say, like you were talking about the secondary having issues. Well, even with their issues, this is the highest PFF grade that our secondary as a whole has had since week 9 in the 2020 season.
And I know for a fact that I saw the Michael Coates has the highest individual corner grade for, or it might even be secondary, any safety or corner has had in 5 years.
Yeah.
So regardless of the issues we are seeing on defense, they're keeping it locked down. They're running to the ball. They're playing fast. They're hitting hard. And you're still without Jamari Robinson. So,
and again, like I said, the quarterbacks that we're going to be playing this season and have already played, they're those quarterbacks that are just going to get their numbers, you know? Like, they're just talented enough to make it happen. So, the defense is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Then you have the other side of the ball, which is where it's a little more tricky.
Yeah, we'll move on in the offense. So, offensively, we definitely looked better yesterday, but in my opinion, the first half was all over the place. Nico did solid to get us the lead, right? But then he started missing throws, not making easy plays. He looked slow again coming out of the pocket, which I think he did all game, but especially in that first half. It just didn't look good for him. We bring in Scotty Fox, and while the first drive was successful, that Justin Smith-Brown passing he made was 100% on Justin Smith-Brown. He's the one that made that happen, and the receivers blocking for him as well. That's the reason we got in the end zone in the first place, and I will give Scotty credit where credit is due. He called the plays, and he executed them, right? And even though that he threw those 2 interceptions in the back-to-back drives, he was commanding the offense the way he was supposed to be. But
I wouldn't say commanding the offense. I mean, it's set plays that Rich Rod's calling, but he is at the, he's making the calls at the line of scrimmage, calling out the defenses.
The point I'm trying to make is he's a freshman.
So that's what I was going to say. Yeah. We need to give him the benefit of the doubt.
That's the point I'm trying to make. He's a true freshman going out there against our most hated rival, and while he's making mistakes, at least he's doing it, right? So I don't think it was wise by Rich Rod to put him out there. That's really the main criticism that I have of Rich Rod this game is trying Scotty Fox before you try Henderson, because it could hurt his confidence. Now, I was talking before the show. I don't think it will. I think Scotty Fox is better than to let that get to him, right? Because that was by far the heaviest workload he's had all season. It'll probably be the heaviest workload he does have all season.
Yeah, I would be shocked if you see Scotty again for the rest of the season, and I don't think you should. I think he needs to be a future product. He was thrown into a very, very bad situation. You're not only playing a Power 4 opponent and a true freshman, but you're playing, like you said, your most hated rival in a crowd that's going to be loud, regardless of if they're cheering you on or not. That is still an insanely loud crowd. And so the loudest he's been in thus far, and behind a subpar O-line that is not going to give him enough time against a really solid defensive line in front seven. And so you put him in a terrible spot in field position that wasn't the greatest. And the 2 throw, like you said, the first one was 3 and out. The first drive he had was 3 and out. Second drive was the Justin Smith-Brown pass, which, like you said, was all Justin Smith-Brown. The next 2 drives was he forced a throw to Justin Smith-Brown that ends up getting intercepted by Cal Lewis. And then the next one was he was under pressure and threw it right into the hands of Lovelace. You could just see the true freshman in him come out. It almost appeared as if he had made up his mind where he was throwing the ball before the ball was even snapped. I mean, he got the ball snapped, looked to Justin Smith-Brown, didn't care that Kyle Lewis was there, and just threw it anyway. And it was, I mean, you're lucky it wasn't taken to the house. Justin Smith-Brown did a heck of a job holding on to Kyle Lewis's jersey and making the tackle. And then the second one, you're under pressure. Again, that's where the subpar O-line play comes in, which we'll get to in a second. And you just make a bad throw under pressure because you're trying to get rid of the ball. Number one thing as a quarterback is if it's going to be a bad play, do not make a bad play even worse, right? So if you're under pressure and you know you're going to take a sack, don't throw the ball away. because then you're set up with bad field position, which again is what I said. The defense did a heck of a job holding Pitt to 6 points, despite Scotty Fox throwing those 2 interceptions, which gave Pitt incredible field position.
Yep.
So true freshman mistakes. I put that on Rich Rod. I did see some other things from Rich Rod that I didn't like from a coaching decision standpoint, but there's a reason I don't get paid and he does. Not, again, bad situation to be in for Scotty, but I still think he can be the future quarterback.
Well, so I'll say going into this game, I was pretty confident in our defense to keep us in it. And based on the last 2 games, the question for me wasn't can we win, but will the offense keep up? And like you said, Ian, it was all over the place in the beginning. I will say we were really worried with the running back room, especially after the Ohio game. But everyone saw Ty Edwards came out 25 carries for 141 yards and 3 touchdowns with a long of 27. Fantastic way to make your mark on the program, especially in such an important game in program history. And then everyone else in the rushing room looked pretty solid the whole time. I will say, with the quarterback running, Nico was 10 for -4 yards. I think he's still having mobility issues getting out whenever he's under pressure. Just feels like it breaks down a little bit. And that's still a problem with the offensive line. If you guys want to jump in on that.
I did want to talk about the quarterback situation, which we'll get to. But you mentioned Ty Edwards. Way to make your debut. I don't think there's a better way to just make your name known other than go out there in the biggest rival or the biggest game of the year and put those numbers on the board. He was the savior of the game. I wholeheartedly believe if he was in the game last week, we beat Ohio. I don't know why he wasn't. I don't know if it was just, similar to why we didn't see Jamori this week. He was at practice, but still hadn't had enough time in the system to be game ready. But just a hell of a way to go out and make your name known. He is by far, I think, Rich Rod's safest option as RB1 moving forward. I do want to say that I will take back everything I said about Clay Ash. I still don't think that he has, the athleticism, the burst to be an RB1 at a Power 4 school. But as an RB2, he went out there and he played hard. He had some key runs. He fights for the yards that he is getting. He's going out there and playing with a hard edge, if you will. And so I do want to apologize to Clay Ash because he had a way better game than what he did against Ohio. And I, it isn't meant as slander, but I said I wasn't going to sugarcoat anything. I didn't sugarcoat anything, and I probably counted Clay Ash out as a running back more than I should have. And so if Ty Edwards is your running back 1, and you have Clay Ash coming in when Ty Edwards is off the field, that is if Ty Edwards stays to the level that he was 2 days ago, I think your running back room will be okay. Okay enough for you to put enough points on the board for if the defense can keep you in a couple games, you could maybe win a couple games with that running room. Now, I do want to say that I still am not 100% understanding of why we're not seeing more of Dior Hubbard or Sincere Bowers. I still would like to see Sincere Bowers because he has that, quick first step, the burst that Jaheim had his freshman year, very similar style runners. So I don't know why we're not seeing more of them, but I was really thrilled about what we saw about Ty Edwards. I feel good about him going forward. Clay Ash, I thought, did really well when he came in as the, quote unquote RB2, even though he's still listed as the RB1 or RB2. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So whatever you have to say about the running back room, and then we can move on to the O-line.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head again. Talking about the running back room preseason, we had heard not only was the quarterback room dynamic, but the running back room was one of the best that Rich ever had. And after the Ohio game, I sat asking myself, well, where's all this depth? Why isn't it showing up? I mean, I know you got Shaheem hurt, but where are the guys that are supposedly supposed to pick up the slack? And again, I don't know why Ty Edwards was being shuffled around the way he was, practicing, not seeing the field very much. Like, what's going on with that? You mentioned Sincere Bowers, too, Dior Hubbard. Like, what's going on with them? Like, I know Rich said and Robert Morris, because of the first half situation, didn't get to play as many guys as he wanted to, so it made him have to make harder decisions in the Ohio game. That can play a factor in it, too, but I think that you at least needed to try more guys out in that Ohio game. But man, we got to see Ty Edwards play.
Edwards
And
was sorry, keep going.
141 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think that's all you got to say about him. And also, the thing that I really took away from his game on Saturday were the yards after contact. Because when we talk about the offensive line, they're still struggling. Do I think they were better? Yeah, they were, but they're still struggling. And Ty Edwards made it happen because he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage basically every run, but he was continuing to tank through guys and getting very important yardage. There were a couple first downs that he got where I was just like, how did he do that with the amount of tacklers swarming in on him and the O-line not making the gap that he needed? I'm just like, how did he get that first down? And he made it happen. I think he's a running back one going forward, like you said. We need to see more Sincere Bowers, I think, because he looked really good at Robert Morris, and we didn't see much of him after. We need to see more Sincere Bowers and maybe try to mix in Dior Hubbard and Clay Ash, like you said, perfectly solid RB2. So if he continues to play at the volume that he played at on Saturday, I still feel comfortable, or at least more comfortable, without Jaheim on the field.
Well, what you said about Ty, I want to say first that Edwards was one of the guys dealing with eligibility issues with Jamori and Harrington. So I think part of the reason you didn't see him and any more than we have thus far is because of those eligibility issues and just getting caught up to speed in practice and that kind of thing. But the yards after contact, like you mentioned, it wasn't like he was. Now, I will say he seemed much more of a speedy guy than I expected. He was much faster and had a quick step than I thought he did have. But at the same time, he was bruising. He was a bruising back. I mean, he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and it didn't matter. If you were going to send one, if he was going to hit by one guy, he wasn't going down. If he was going to get hit by two guys, it was going to be a struggle to get him down. And so that is the kind of back you need forward with the sub. I don't want to say subpar offensive line because I still think they can be better. But right now they're playing subpar. And like you said, we'll get into it. But if you're going to get hit at the line of scrimmage, Ty Edwards is the guy to move forward with because he's getting hit and continuing to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and move on to the offensive line before we get to quarterback because I kind of want to save that for last. It's the most important question that we got to answer here. But from an offensive line perspective, I know that me and you both agree that it's mainly the right side of the line that's having a little bit of issues.
Yeah, very, very right side. I'm still not going to sugarcoat it, right? I'm going to call out players if I see something that I thought was becoming an issue, and that, like you said, that right side is becoming an issue, and that's Tykees Crawford and Kimo Makanaole. Tykees obviously has the right tackle spot. I don't remember how many sacks Nico took or Scotty and Jalen, but I know that majority, if not all of them, could partially be attributed to Tykees Crawford. And the one play that stood out to me was when Henderson was in the game and it was 4th and 4 and Rich Rod decided to go for it. He had a one-on-one matchup with Pitt's defensive lineman, Sean Fitzsimmons. I wish I had the clip so I could put it up there. And Sean Fitzsimmons is 6'3", 295. That's still not a small dude. So I'm not saying that I could block any, that's a big guy, and he's coming at you. But Tykees Crawford is 6'5", 324. He's got another 2 inches and 30 pounds on him, and Sean Fitzsimmons just manhandled him back into Henderson. I mean, just no push against Fitzsimmons. He just grabbed him, pushed back, And Tykees basically made the sack himself. Henderson tried to step up in the pocket, and Tykees' back was in his face. So that right tackle is an issue. And what I wanted to say was Xavier Bosley was in this room last year. He knows Rich's system because he played for Rich at Jacksonville State 2 years ago. He is, as far as I am aware, injured at the moment or banged up. As soon as he comes back, I would be shocked if we don't see a change there. And if we don't see a change, I would want to hear some answers as to why. Because Tykees Crawford through 3 games has looked really rough. And then the other guy, Kimo Makanele, I don't think has been as rough as Tykees Crawford, but has not looked particularly well. And I don't think the offensive line as a whole has looked well. At the very best, I would give, Landon Livingston, Nick Cray, and who's our left guard? I can't even think of his name. It'll get there in a second. I don't think the left side has
Walter Youngbear?
Yeah, Walter Youngbear. My gosh. Thank you. The left side hasn't looked good. I would say it looked as middle of the pack at best. But the right side is just bringing the offensive line down as a whole, especially the tackle position. So I don't understand why we're not at least seeing some changes. Again, I said it a second ago, there's a reason I'm not getting paid the big bucks to be the head coach. So I won't doubt that there's a reason. There's something that Rich Rod is seeing in practice to give Crawford the spot over Malik Agbo and give Kimo the spot over Josh Isosa on the right side. But I really think you need to at least see some kind of change moving forward, especially once Xavier Bosley is healthy.
It just makes you miss Wyatt Milam. That's all it does. It makes you miss Wyatt Milam.
Wyatt Milam, Zach Frazier, Tomas Remack, all those guys.
Yeah, now Remack's 0-3 at Virginia Tech. So
That's true. So I don't know about Tomas
where that got him.
Doug Nestor. There you go. Doug Nestor.
There we go. That's a good one. Man, if our O-line is struggling, at least they're healthy. You want to talk about the Pitt players sinking on every single play.
Well, it was mostly you're right. Yeah, what was that? But it was mostly the defensive players. It was when we were on offense and their defense just every play went down. And Rich Rod said his piece. He's concerned if they can even field a team next week. I am too.
Need some air in their helmet.
That might be a strength and conditioning question.
They need some more tape on, lace the shoes a little tighter, and more air in the helmet.
I'm a little concerned for them, man. Not just for the batteries.
Yeah.
Need their batteries recharged.
They need some strength and conditioning. That's what they need.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they'd be better off having me in that locker room than whoever the heck they got over there now. All right, let's talk about the quarterbacks now. So
let's go receiver first. You said quarterback last. So let's go receiver first.
Oh, okay. You want to go receiver? We'll go receiver. We'll leave this up. So I know Rodney Gallagher. We had him listed on this slide here. Rodney Gallagher showed up this game. For the first time in this season, he showed up. He had 7 catches for 61 yards. Not a touchdown, but I mean, that's almost 10 yards a catch. So
I want to say those 61 yards felt a lot more than 61 yards because it felt like every time he did catch the ball, he was moving the sticks or it was in a big, high pressure situation.
Important plays.
So it may have only been 61 yards. They were a very important and crucial 61 yards. And I even said before game that if somebody was going to step up for us to win this game, it needed to be Rodney Gallagher because Cam Vaughn is going to be, honed in on. He's the clear wide receiver 1 and defenses are going to focus on him. So if somebody's got to win one-on-one matchups, it's got to be Rodney. And he did it.
Rodney looked a lot better. And, speaking on Cam Vaughn, it's not like he did bad for himself either, not in the box score, but if we could have completed some more passes to him, especially earlier on in the game, we would have been rolling. Like there were a few times where he was open.
Well, he even had had 2 crucial plays that ended up being pass interference calls, and one towards the end of the game that put us on the 2-yard line. So, despite him not having, like you said, not filling up the box score, he drew 2 crucial penalties. He kind of sold the one towards the end zone. But it was still a PI, and I felt like he was getting open. He was winning his matchups, but the offensive line was not giving Nico enough time. And when the other times when he was open, when Scotty or Jalen was in the game, they weren't throwing accurate enough passes. just a tough day for. I don't even know. I think Nico needs more time, or to throw the ball for Cam Vaughn because he's running deeper routes, or Rich Rod needs to find a way to get Cam Vaughn the ball on shorter routes so that Nico can get it out quicker to Cam Vaughn.
Yeah, I think so. Like the plays we saw against Robert Morris, it may not necessarily work against a Power 14, but we ran the same play 3 times in a row for Cam Vaughn where it was just a quick little curl and he would catch the ball and get 10, 12 yards out of it. I mean, if you could design something similar to at least get the defense focusing on him, that's going to get everybody else open. And now we know that'll get Ty Edwards rolling in the backfield because if you're passing it to Cam Vaughn, pick your poison, right? Do you want someone to run down your throat, or would you have Cam Vaughn dice you up?
That, and we didn't really see any deep shots. I mean, Cam Vaughn is being mostly running deeper routes. He ran a couple slants, but most of the time it's just deeper routes, and Nico just either doesn't have enough time or isn't seeing Cam Vaughn before he sees somebody else. I don't know. We haven't seen a ton of deep shots, which obviously isn't Rich Rod's offense, but at the same time, when you have a player that is that special at wide receiver and that talented, you've got to find a way to get him the ball. And so
I think it'll be there. They'll be there. Those deep shots will show.
You're going to have to find a way because as good as the defense is played, you're going to get into some quality Big 12 offenses that are going to put some points on the board, starting with Kansas, who has looked really good on offense thus far.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a hard week 4 matchup for us, man. It really is.
One more thing I want to say about the receivers is I think Rich needs to solidify Justin Smith-Brown as that new wide receiver 2 in place of Jaden Bray. He had the fumble week 1 against Robert Morris, and so I think he lost a little bit of trust. Rich Rod lost a little bit of trust in him. I think he earned it back this week with specifically that one 56-yard reception. He's fast. He is fast. So like Cam Vaughn, if you find a way to get skill position players that are fast and quick on their feet, the ball, they will make plays for you. That's how the Rich Rod offense runs. You don't need the Rich Rod offense works best when you have fast guys that can make plays with the ball in their hands. And I think that is what Cam Vaughn, Rodney Gallagher, and Justin Smith-Brown are. They just need the ball. So find a way to get it to them.
Yep. I think we're also forgetting one of the most important guys on the field.
Grayson
Saturday.
Barnes. Is that who you're going to say?
We're forgetting him. Yeah, I was going to say Grayson Barnes, dude. We're forgetting him. So he obviously had the game-tying touchdown with 11 seconds left on the clock. He pulled that ball in. That wasn't 100% accurate, and he had to reach over his defender to grab that ball.
Well, I was going to say, there's only so much you can do when you're that close to the end zone and only have 11 seconds left, but it was still a dangerous pass from Rodney, and it wasn't a perfect pass, but at the same time, you put it where he can get it, and Grayson Barnes went up and got it.
A dangerous pass from Nico, not Rodney.
No, did I say Rodney?
Yeah.
Dangerous pass from
Nico.
All right, I know we want to get to the quarterbacks. I just want to say, and I've been talking about it I talked about it the whole game, but I was talking about it leading up to and definitely afterwards. Oliver Straw. Fantastic.
Player of the game. I'm not even
player of the game.
I'll be honest.
He was so clutch in every situation. The punts were perfect. He is so athletic, and he just does his job as well as anyone could ever ask for.
I was worried about him at the Ohio game, too, because he had a few messed up kicks.
I wanted to say that. I wanted to bring something up about Ollie. So whatever you want to say.
No, you go for it. That's all I wanted to say.
This game was probably the worst game I've seen in the past couple of years when it comes to a field position perspective. It felt like every drive for West Virginia started backed up past the 20, and every drive for Pitt started near the 50-yard line, around midfield. I don't remember the last time we saw a field position battle where we were this bad off. But Oliver Shaw did just enough, And the one catch in particular in the back of the end zone, I mean, he saved 2 points. He literally saved a safety. If that thing goes out of bounds, it's a safety. Just one hand reared back and still manages to get what I believe was a 46-plus yard punt. He averaged 45 on the day, but he had 6 punts for 274 yards. He did just enough to keep Pitt out of field goal range, and the defense did their thing from that point forward. So where West Virginia on the day had a terrible field position day, Ollie did just enough to keep Pitt, kind of balanced out. But like I said, I don't remember the last time we had this bad a field position all game long.
Yeah, I think at the very beginning of the game, we got the ball at like the 50-yard line after we sacked Eli to start. And we got the ball at like midfield. And I think that was the last time that you could actually say we had considerably good field position.
Well, there was
So,
Darren Lewis got the interception and ran it out, and that one started around the 10. There was one drive that we basically started in the end zone. That was the one where Ty Edwards started it with like a 7-yard run that I thought he was going to take a safety. And then even the last drive of the game started on the 13-yard line, I think.
I think so. So
you had terrible field position all game long. But Oliver Straw played lights out. I mean, and that one catch that saved 2 points and you still managed to flip the field even after a terrible snap. Good shout out by Matt Howe to pull up Oliver Straw.
He looked like the Air Jordan logo.
Quarterback play was confusing on Saturday. Obviously, at the end of the game, I think it's safe to say Nico is going to be your starter for the rest of the season. So I don't think that's the question that people should be asking. The questions that I have at quarterback are, how can we improve the consistency of the first half, especially like opening the game in our opening drives? How can we improve the consistency at quarterback? Because that's where we struggled on Saturday. After we got on the board the first time, Nico struggled making simple throws. Nico struggled getting out of the pocket, which again, you can put some on the O-line, but Nico's just slow. I think we're at the point where we have to accept that Nico is who he is. And then you look at Scotty Fox. We addressed Scotty Fox a little bit already. He's a freshman. He made his mistakes. He did what he could out there. I don't think that he should be started the rest of the season. Not started, but play. I don't think he will be played the rest of the season. But it still could happen. And then when it comes to Henderson, I don't think Henderson was necessarily good or bad. He had a few weird plays, but he's just been mediocre at best, is what I could say about Henderson. Nico, though, that last drive, I'm not saying that we should expect that every game, but we should expect something more consistent out of Nico. I think, Matt, you can agree while Tyler's still looking at stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting that Coach would put in 3 quarterbacks for rotation. I don't know if Nico was jarred at some point and just needed a little break. I mean, I could see that happening, but you would expect to be able to play the whole game. I don't think that's an issue for him. I haven't heard anything about why that was the case. And then again, having 2 other quarterbacks come in instead of just one during this game at such a crucial time, I don't see why that would happen. In terms of consistency, you're absolutely right. You look at the first half against RMU versus the second half. You look at the entire Ohio game. The drive at the end was perfect, obviously, but you'd like to see more. Passing wise, he was great. I had the stat pulled up here. He was 19 of 25 for 192 yards. That is perfectly fine quarterback play.
Yeah.
We're not
No
throwing deep
interception
balls.
either.
Yeah, exactly. We're not throwing deep balls.
in.
The passing yards don't need to be super high. You just need to get people open and make those passes without turning the ball over.
3 games in, And outside of one interception, which was late game, he was trying to make a play and he was hit as he threw. That's the only interception he's thrown through 3 games. Now, you brought up the fact that he hasn't thrown a lot of deep balls, so there hasn't been a ton of chances for interceptions. But for the most part, he's being consistent and not putting the ball in harm's way. I mean, he's 70% completion percentage on the year. We haven't had that since what feels like Will Greer.
Yeah.
But before I move on, that is the play of the game. That's a punter, ladies and gentlemen. That is a
quality
punter.
image.
That is beautiful. All right. Anyway, here's what I think about the quarterback situation. I think Nico is I don't want to say by far, but I think he is your best quarterback on the field and in that room, period. The problem I'm still having is the fact that he just does not fit this scheme whatsoever. And Rich Rod is not going to make a scheme change 3 games into the season because his quarterback can't run very fast. And so I think Rich Rod is going to have to find a way to – because I think at this point, you're right, the Scotty Fox experiment is over until he's older. I would redshirt him this year. I wouldn't even bring him in for another game unless it's a blowout. So then it becomes between – and I would do the same for Khalil Wilkins. Again, freshman, doesn't need to be playing in a Power 4 game behind a subpar line. So then your discussion is Nico, Henderson, Max Brown. We're yet to see Max Brown. I still don't know why he hasn't been given an opportunity yet. A true freshman is, again, unless it's just something that Rich Rod has seen in practice. Because we're not seeing any of Max Brown, and he's even putting Scotty in before Max Brown, I would go to say that it is in terms of the trust Rich Rod has in the quarterback room between each player, it is Nico and Henderson. I said earlier today that whoever you decide to go with, you need to stop playing this start somebody, and thus far it's been Nico. Start Nico in the third quarter, bring in a guy for a couple drives, he makes a mistake or goes 3 and out, and then you bring Nico back in. That's like no positives and double negatives. Through 2 attempts of Rich Rod doing that, he has said that it's trying to give the team a spark. It is doing the exact opposite. It is, I don't want to say it's killing Nico's confidence because Nico came back in and played lights out. Like his last drive was his best drive of the game. And so I don't want to say it's killing Nico's confidence, but it can if you continue to bench a quarterback was 9 for 12 and 76 yards in the first half and you're benching him. And then you bring in a true freshman quarterback. And then the second thing is it's killing any momentum that you did have on an offense that is struggling to get any momentum. And so if it's Henderson or if it's Nico moving forward, I don't really care because I think one fits the scheme better and I think the other one is just the better passer, more accurate, and seems a little bit more experienced. That's obviously Nico. But whoever it is, you got to stop this third quarter experiment that you've had through 2 games now because it is not working whatsoever. And I don't want to blame Henderson or Scotty either. Like we already explained why Scotty was thrown in a bad situation, but even Henderson is going in cold and is given 2 drives to try to get into a rhythm and can't because it's run play, and then maybe a pass play. And it's getting 1 play a drive, going 3 and out, and no time to try to get into a rhythm. So I don't want to put it on Henderson either. For me, the quarterback situation is less about who's it going to be and more about stop trying to play the quarterback carousel.
Henderson has not been put into a situation where he's set up to succeed yet.
I agree.
Basically, because he hasn't been able to show anything from a good position, he's looked bad. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but just the situations he's been put in and the inability to get warm and go in as the guy, it's not a good spot for him to be in.
100%.
I think it would be ill-advised, I think, to make a quarterback change. I mean, that is a very dramatic shift for an offense. So I don't know really what that will look like throughout the rest of the season. Unless
I
Nico
don't.
gets hurt, I don't see any reason for him to not be the starter.
What Rich Rod is doing is, I don't think, fair to Nico or Henderson, because you're taking out Nico. Last game he was not playing well, but we had the lead and he wasn't playing bad. So why do you take him out? You didn't really need a spark because you had the lead. Your defense was playing lights out, and he wasn't playing bad. He was. I just don't think the system fits Nico as well, and so that's why he's struggling in the option game. But if Ty Edwards is going to perform like he did, then I don't think you need Nico to be as good as what we are accustomed to Rich Rod quarterbacks being. If he can hit the quick throws and an occasional slant or fade to Cam Vaughn or Rodney Gallagher, then I think that's fine. But just stop with like I said, the quarterback carousel game, starting with one guy, taking him out in the third quarter, not giving the other guy enough time to get into a rhythm behind an offensive line that is struggling, and then taking him back out for the guy that you benched in the third quarter. So make a decision.
I'd like to hear the reasoning behind it from the coach.
His reasoning is because he's the head coach and he can make the decisions. That's what he said in the postgame. Somebody asked him why he went with Scotty Fox over Henderson in the third quarter, and he said, because I'm the head coach and I can make the decision. And he said that it could have to do with trying to get the team a spark like it was against Ohio, or certain situations where he wants to run plays that he thinks fits Scotty's skill set or Jalen Henderson's skill set better than Nico. But at the end of the day, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. That is John. That is how it works. I fully agree with that statement. I don't think you can run a two quarterback system, or more so say you have two quarterbacks that you can win with, and you're going to take them in and out on a drive basis. I don't.
Look at the Steelers last year in the NFL. That's example enough that two quarterbacks just don't work together. So,
if you have two, you have none. So let one of them run the offense.
Yeah. We've said our piece about the offensive line, but I also think it could be another example of just trying to hold other people accountable. Like, Rich took Nico out because he thought we needed a spark. And a lot of it was because Nico was struggling to get away from pressure. And I think a lot of it is just holding the offensive line more accountable than Nico. Although I think, as we've said, we've also said our piece on Nico. He doesn't fit the system and he's slow. But
he's a winner. At the same time, he's a winner.
Right. Exactly. So I think there are other issues to be worked out besides just that. I think Rich Rod knows that. Again, he gets paid and we don't. But that's my 2 cents on it.
He has shown that he clearly trusts Nico more than any of the other quarterbacks. And Nico is showing that, like he said at the end of the game, don't ever count the Mountaineers out ever. That was his words, not mine.
Mountaineers don't ever quit.
He's a winner. He is a winner.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe Nico has lost to a Power 4 team as the starter.
He has not.
As in Ohio was his first loss as a starter.
As the starter. He's a winner. He never is going to give up. He just isn't quick. And that's the only gripe we have about him thus far. And so if you can find a way, which I think Rich Rod can, he's a smart enough offensive mind to be able to figure it out, to get the run game going and the pass game open without needing Nico to run as much as you have needed quarterbacks to run in the past in your system. I think Nico is the guy. And I think that last drive proved it. But at the same time, the last drive, the defense was giving Nico looks that he wanted to see. Nico was struggling in the first half because he was under pressure almost every play. The last drive of the game, Pitt was dropping everybody but 3 guys that were rushing because they were in a quote-unquote prevent defense. They had the lead. They weren't trying to give up big pass plays. That is what fits Nico's skill set. He's going to find soft spots in the zone coverage because he's a pass-first quarterback. But then in the first half, you saw if they're going to rush a bunch and Nico's is going to have to take off and run, that isn't going to be what Nico is able to do. So it is. Yes, Nico's a winner, and he proved it. He played his heart out and played really tough in the last couple minutes. But he also got the look that he wanted to see and that he's not going to see all the time.
Yeah, and it's important to note that as much as we like to say things are going to improve, and I think they will, it's hard to look at this team from this past weekend and know what we're going to look at or look like next weekend because things are still changing around. So it's hard to even make a prediction as to what will actually happen as the season progresses.
I don't think you can win Big 12 games doing what Rich has done with the quarterback room thus far. I think you can win some Big 12 games with Nico as the full-time guy or Henderson as the full-time guy, but I don't think you can keep playing the quarterback carousel.
Well, I think that the game on Saturday has answered that Nico should be your full-time guy. We should try to make the system work around him, and I think the last 2 drives that we had were a perfect example of that. We had great execution. Overall, a game that we needed 100%. Pitt has to sit on that for 4 years now. Nothing makes me happier. We're going into conference play on a high, and right now that's all that matters. And while we're done talking about the Pitt game, we're going to do another show on this entirely. Just bring this up quickly. Say one thing that the Mountaineers may need to do against Kansas, and we'll go ahead and call it. So, first of all, 13.5 points, I think, is a little much. I don't think we should be favored, but 13.5 points is a little much for my taste.
I think it should be about what the Pitt game was. But at the same time, that was a home game, and this is an away game against a team that has had an offense that's humming. Now, I will also say that Missouri put 40-plus on them. And so, although our offense has not been great, that could be a ticket to put another 20, 24 points, maybe crack the 30. I don't think you quite get to 30 against Kansas, but if you can get to 24 and the defense can continue to play the way they've played, it could be a close game.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and say my key to the game. I'll let you guys talk. My early key to the game is defense. Do what you tried to do with Parker Navarro. I know they're not the same quarterback. Daniels is probably better overall than Navarro is. He's quicker, and he has a better arm. But if you can try to force him to make quick decisions and uncomfortable decisions in the pocket, I think you can stand a way better chance of winning this game, as tough as it is going to be for these guys.
Yeah, I've been really high on our defense even since preseason. We need a little bit of improvements, like we've talked about earlier in this episode. Again, offensively is a big old question mark because we are not consistent yet, and we need to at least find our footing here. But if we play moderately well, I think we have a good shot.
I think the defense will do what they've been doing. Zach Alley has shown me nothing but good things thus far. There's been obviously a couple hiccups here and there, but for the most part, the defense has been sound. And that doesn't include the fact that we will confirmed have Jamori Robinson back in the game come Saturday. And so an incredible defensive line is going to get even more incredible against Kansas on the road. My key to the game is, does Ty Edwards show up like he did Saturday? If Ty Edwards can do what he did against Kansas, if he can do what he did against Pitt against Kansas, I like WVU's chances to at least stay in the game late enough to make plays to win it late. It's going to be a tough one. Kansas is going to be able to score the ball even against a really good defense. I think if they find a way to get into the 30s, I don't think you win the game. I think you need to find a way to keep them to, under 20, 24, 27. And just try to find a way to put points on the board, whether that be with Ty Edwards, whether that be with finding a way to get Cam Vaughn the ball. But if Ty Edwards opens up the running game like he did against Pitt, and that opens up the secondary a little bit so Cam Vaughn can get loose, Rodney can get loose, I like your chances to at least stay in the game enough.
Yep, I agree. Well, I'm glad we got our 2 cents in on that game, and I think unless you guys have anything else to say, that's going to do it for us for this one. So, go Mountaineers. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
This is my last thing to say.
Okay. All right.
We got to come up with some Dixieland Delight lyrics because I'm do not want to hear "Roll Tide" in Milan Pushkar ever again.
I wasn't even paying attention. I was probably
wild.
ahead of my phone.
I was down on the field getting ready to go on for halftime, and the student section, you could just hear "Roll Tide."
You know what? At least we can claim Nick Saban. But I agree
That's
with
true.
you.
But
I
guys,
agree with
Go
you.
Ears is right there. Go
That's true.
Ears.
That's true. All right. Do we have anything else to
That's
add?
my last thing to say.
That's the last thing. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video. It does a lot for the algorithm. Really helps the channel out. Subscribe as well. Comment what you guys think about your analysis of the Pitt game. What do you agree with us on? What do you disagree with us on? Follow the Instagram, follow the X, and don't forget about our Spotify. You want to listen on the go, all of our episodes are on there. So that is going to do it. So from me, from Matt, and from Tyler, we will see you guys on the next episode.
Goodbye, America.